Hi traders and welcome to the Technical Analysis Market Wrap on Friday the 11th of June. So we've seen a pretty flat market this week again, which is a bit of a surprise really. I thought we would have been getting a bit of a kickoff after non-farm payroll last week, but again we've seen pretty lackluster movement. But the smaller time frames have given us some opportunity, so we'll jump straight in and see if we can see anything else that is presenting for today. So the Aussie USD will start here as we normally do. Again, it's finding itself right in the middle of this channel. It did have a bit of a breakout late last week to early this week, as you can see here, but it rebounded straight back in. So it didn't really, yes, it did break that level, but it's found itself exactly in the zone that we've been talking about for a long time. So a bit of a nothing doing here. Like where it stands right now, there's literally nothing that you can do with it because it's right in the middle of that channel and it's got absolutely no movement whatsoever. So realistically, you need a breakout either side on a smaller time frame, say a 15-minute, and that's probably all it will take. If you go to a 15-minute chart, you're going to see it's fairly messy. But what we'll have a look at and what you're waiting for here is you've got very clear zones to aim for. There's no question about that. So all you've got to do is wait for a series of lower highs and lower lows, and you can trade into that. I've got no preference whatsoever on this as to whether it goes to the 78 or to the 77. All we know for sure is that it will get there at some point. It just needs to actually give us a direction. So if you get the a series of higher highs and higher lows on a 15-minute, you can aim for the 78. That'll still hopefully give you about 30 or 40 pips as a scalp. So still a pretty good scalp. And of course, if it makes a lower high and lower low, then you can aim for the 77. Same deal. It should still give you about the same result, about 20 or 30 pips, which is still pretty good. But again, you've got to wait for that confirmation. Now, the upside is probably more exciting than the downside, mainly because the moving averages are behind it. So you've got a little bit more of a breakdown between your entry point and your stop loss. You've got more things in between it. But of course, it's only on the 15-minute chart. So if you go to a 1 hour, yeah, again, the moving averages behind you is still my preferred trade, probably to go higher. But again, you just have to wait for a break. And as soon as you get a signal, you're able to trade that in either direction. All right, we'll move on now to the US dollar CAD. The US dollar CAD is a bit of a roadblock situation here again. It's got a very, very strong resistance zone in front of it, but it has flattened right out. It looks like it wants to break the 20 moving average. Again, you got MACD on our side here on the daily, so it's really, really good from that standpoint. But we need a daily break above this level to get excited about this trade. If we get a daily break above, I'll zoom it up. If we get a daily break above this level where it's at now, it's going to be really good because it's going to clear the 20 moving average and this very, very strong resistance zone. Okay, I'm not, I'm not convinced it's not going to do it. I'm pretty comfortable that it probably will actually, but it has to do it first before we actually trade it. If you're looking for smaller scalps on this, you're only going to be trading, this little mini zone here. I wouldn't suggest you take a smaller time frame break of trend or a break of this level and say that will do. It needs to be a daily because this is where all the resistance is, and it needs to be a significant time frame to actually make it valid. Okay, so we want to see a daily close above this level here. Make sure we get it above the 20 and that resistance zone, and then we're looking pretty good for a couple of long opportunities up to the 123.20. Okay, so you're going to go to the smaller time frames if you want to look for potential shorting opportunities just for little mini scalps. All you want to be doing is basically trading from above here down to no lower than here. So you really got a very small zone to work with. It's only absolute scalping. You're talking about 20, 30 pips. So if you want to do it and you're inclined to, and it's playing the game during your window of where you can actually trade, that's great. There's no worries about that. But just be very mindful that the main move is probably going to be to the upside if we get a daily break up here. Okay, so that is what we're looking for on the CAD and our definitely preferred trade. But this is a nice setup. I like it. And I think that we can potentially get some really good moves if it does what it needs to and get above this level here. We'll move on now to the US dollar yen. This one's finding itself consolidating at an area of support. Okay, we know that this is a bit of a role reversal zone, and it's also got the 20 moving average behind it. Still definitely in an uptrend, so there's no worries about that. But it's starting to, it wants to get moving from here if it really wants to continue. Okay, like it's starting to find itself in a place now where it really needs to get up and make a higher high to actually warrant the movement previous. So what we want to be doing here, I'll bring it in a little bit. You can see, I'll do another horizontal line exactly where price is, and you can see how important this level is. Okay, so as you can see, we've got all this resistance through here, okay, and again through here. We've got the 20 moving average just at the same level. So it's definitely primed for a potential move up, but yeah, it has been here for about 3 days now. So it wants to be doing something soon. If it breaks down through this point here, the next point of call is going to be, I'll bring this line, I don't know why this line moved up there. I'll bring it down a little bit. It'll be around this level here. Okay, so this is the next part of the equation that we're expecting, which is about a 108.50 area. So if it breaks down this level here, that's our target. So I'm not overly fussed either way. I like trading with the trend, so my preferred trade is to go up, and I'd like it to actually get above here and close in this area, and start trend basically getting up to around that sort of 110.50 again. But again, if it breaks down lower, I'm not going to be afraid to short it either to this level. I think it's still, yeah, even though it is in an uptrend, it's a pretty shallow one. So I would take either trade. I'm not concerned about either of them, but you just wait for the price action to actually tell you what to do. A 4 hour or a 1 hour probably will be the move you want on this one. You know where the setup is on the daily. 4 hour change of trend is not going to happen on a 4 hour in time, but if you go to a 1 hour, if you get a series of lower highs and lower lows, or higher highs and higher lows, I'd probably take that. A 4 hour break of this zone would nearly be enough as well. Okay, so keep an eye on that. But if we get a big dirty 4 hour candle that closes below here, actually closes below here, I think that's going to preempt what the daily is going to do. So the 4 hour will probably be enough to start looking for those shorter time frame change of trends and start shorting it into that area. But just let it play out, let it do what it needs to do, and as soon as it gives us a signal, we've got our take profit areas pretty clearly marked. So no real bias. I like to go, I'd rather go higher than lower, but at the same time, if it breaks lower, I will certainly be taking a very close look at it. All right, we'll move on now to the dollar index. This one's been a little bit flatline-ish as well. It hasn't had a lot of action last 4 days, as you can see. It had a big move last week. Yeah, it's come back down below the 20 moving average. It's really struggling to hold above it, but at the same time, it's not really shorting off either. So, starting to get that rounded bottom sort of effect, a bit like the CAD. So realistically, not that we trade this one, but we do want to be looking at above the 20 moving average before we start getting excited about it. It is still in a technical uptrend. Okay, we've got the series of higher highs and higher lows, which is actually a really good thing. On the daily, it's pretty important, especially off a level of support. But of course, it's important that it continues on with the job. It needs to get up and make a new high through here to really get tracking. And I like it to the 90.80. I think if it gets a bit more momentum, the MACD is certainly in its favor. If it gets a little bit of momentum, the 90.80 is pretty much a formality for it if it makes a new high. So that's what we're looking for. And of course, that's going to reflect quite well on the euro, which we'll touch on now. So this one finds itself, as we would fully expect, at a point of resistance because of the dollar index's support. As you can see here, big rejection candles right through this level. It's a very, very important level. I'll get this marker out of the way so you can actually see the candle action. But you can see here that we know that we're obviously at resistance, so there's no worries about that. We had the big shooting star there that started the downtrend. Over here, we've got the resistance again, and another shooting star, indecision candle, very, very indecisive. Okay, so and that tells me that the euro is tired and it's probably a little bit weak. It probably needs a bit of a breather from the move up. So the preferred trade here is definitely to the short side because everything else is pointing up on the dollar index. So what we're looking for is a change of trend. We know that we're at resistance, of course. So we go to a 1 hour, we go see a series of lower highs and lower lows, and we're off and running. Okay, I think an hour is good enough for this one because it warrants the time frame that we're looking at. Given that the daily is given these signals, I think the 1 hour will get this moving pretty quickly. We're looking for that 120 still. I think it's still got it in it. It's 170 pips away. I wouldn't go for that in the first instance. I'd probably be going for 50 pips scalps on this one. I don't know if it's ready to actually give back that much. And I'm not so sure it's going to be trending anywhere anytime soon. I think it's going to go sideways. So knowing that we're probably looking for only the 50 pip scalps, 40, 50 pip scalps, but nothing wrong with that, of course. Failing that, look at if it breaks to the upside and goes and closes above the 20 moving average on a daily, you can probably start looking at scalps to get it to the 122.50 again. But again, it needs to do that. I wouldn't be doing that at all until we get a daily close above the 20 moving average at the very, very least. But the preferred trade is definitely the short. As soon as we get a change of trend on the 1 hour, series of lower highs and lower lows, and we're off down and try and get that 50 pips. So the first point of call, by the time you get the change of trend, you'll be getting a low below this here, which is around that sort of 121.40. Probably 121 will be the first point of call. Okay, so you'll be aiming for the 121 and then aim for your 30 or 40 pip scalps in between there to the round numbers. All right, the last one we'll have a look at today is the ASX 200. So this one's been, it's found itself very, very flatliney up around this level. It's been up and down and all around this week, really. It's got stuck at the 73. This is pretty much an all-time high for it. So, I mean, you can see, we can go to a monthly, it's never been higher. And looking very, very strong, on a monthly. But in saying that, it's going to be hard for it to carry on without pulling back at all. You can see we haven't had a pullback in absolute ages, and this is a monthly chart, so it's been a crazy move. Crazy moves don't generally end all that well, so I'm very, very mindful at the level that we're at that the shorting opportunities are probably more ripe. You shouldn't be trying to break the trend. Of course, you've got to let it play out, but I'd be looking for the smaller time frames and looking for the changes of trend to actually pull it back. At the very, very least, we wanted to see pull it back to around that 20 moving average, or even the highs here, which is around that sort of or the 71 sort of 50 area. So about 150 pips movement there. If it does go up, it's not going to go up for an extraordinary amount of momentum. So the easier trade is certainly the short, but it's got to do its thing. It's mimicking the S&P 500. All these markets, all these major indices are very, very tired at the moment. So I think that they're probably looking for a bit of an excuse to come back. What that excuse will be, I'm not sure. But we can only look at the technicals, of course, and we're looking for that change of trend on a smaller time frame. We get that at these very, very key resistance points. The S&P 500 is the same. If we get any form of 1 hour change of trend, you're able to trade that and scalp it. I wouldn't be looking for big moves, though. I'd be looking for only that sort of 100 to 150 moves. I don't know if the trends are going to be changing anytime soon. So we look for those counter trends. Look for the 50 to 100 pips. You're going to get good scalps there on the smaller time frames, and aim for the key levels again. And they should give us some pretty good trading. All right, everyone. Well, hopefully everyone has had a good week's trading. There's been some good scalping opportunities, but nothing moving on a trending front. So that's okay. We only play what we see. So there's plenty of scalping opportunities, and as long as we adjust our trading to take advantage of those, we're going to be just fine no matter what the market is doing. So have a great weekend, everyone. I hope you had a really good week, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.